morning and welcome, Picture Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason on this Monday. I hope you had a fantastic weekend. Apparently, too many of you were glued to your TVs or your iPhones or your laptops. The retailers saying, man, it's not looking so good. We got retail sales coming out later this week. We've got the Fed this week. Yes, Jay Powell's going to tell us how they're not going to raise rates again. But don't worry, maybe they will, maybe they won't. We don't know. Not to mention, tomorrow we're going to get CPI. And it's funny because in the next show, in the Half Empty Cup of Joe, we're going to talk about the COP 28. Yeah, that's what they got COP right in it. COP 28. Yes, it's the gathering of nations talking about climate change, and somehow Al Gore, I'm sure he took a private jet there, so he's not too worried about the climate, was talking about access to non-mainstream information. It threatens democracy, you guys. See, if you all don't drink the Kool-Aid, right, it's going to be a problem. You got to believe our propaganda, and that's exactly what we're going to get this week. A number that they pretend tracks inflation. It doesn't. I know inflation's coming down. It's coming down. It's coming down. Maybe gas prices went down, because they have. Gas prices have gone down. Have you been to the supermarket lately? Have you gone to a restaurant? The inflation hasn't gone down at all. It just, again, maybe in some textbook, when you massage the numbers and put them on a spreadsheet and turn them around and upside down, and you imagine, then I guess it did. But this is why everybody's been buying into the pullback in gold prices. But we got a big week for you. 800-951-0592, the website at allamericangold.com. Make sure, follow us on YouTube, follow us on Rumble, give us the thumbs up, like us, share it, do all that great stuff out there. And I'm sure all of you saw, we've got new, well, not quite billionaires. This is how little the dollar is worth. John Rahm, he's a golfer. By the way, you want to find a sport for your kid? Start him playing golf. $450 million to join the Saudi Golf League, but not to be outdone. Well, he was outdone. Shohei Ohtani, he's a baseball player. $700 million over 10 years. But that should tell you exactly what's really going on with inflation and the value of fiat currencies. But as always on Monday, well, not quite always, when he's available, we have Joey joining us. My son Joey works at Northwestern Mutual, the best place to have your financial assets that aren't in the bank. If you've got IRAs and stuff like that, old 401ks, Joey's the best place. He's the best place to have it. Why? And this is just my opinion. Of course, it's also the rating agency's opinion, if that means anything. Because you know what? They're not a bank. They're not publicly traded. They don't care about Wall Street. And of course, they have great fees. They have great investment tools. They're the best of the best when it comes to taxes. They're the best of the best when they come to all the different products that you can invest in. You want to be risky? You can be risky. You don't want to be risky? You don't have to be risky. Whatever you want to do, and you've got an expert in your corner. Joey, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, glad to be here, and happy Monday to everybody. And yeah, just happy to come on and talk to everybody. But we do it all, from being super aggressive to being super conservative. But I will tell you that over these 170 years that Northwestern Mutual has been around, we've always been a conservative company. And people in the KHNC listeners specifically always love to hear that. We're making sure with all of our clients as we're entering retirement, as we're entering into the new year, as they're waiting for the Fed to see if they reduce rates or hike them up again, to make sure, one, we're preserving their wealth and protecting their principal and making sure at the end of the day that it is still growing and they are on track for their goals, whatever that is. Whether it's to retire at 55 or to pay for their grandkids' vacation or for their education in college. We really just want to make sure we're helping all of our clients get a game plan in and figure out what are the goals on the horizon for them in these next couple of years as we go into the new year. It's really amazing with the access to the products we have, from long-term health care to life insurance to annuities, right, to long-term disability coverage to investments, to make sure, one, that we're not outliving our dollars, so we're able to create as much tax-free income as possible, but the IRS and Uncle Sam are getting a smaller slice of that pie year over year. And that's something that takes a lot of moving around, playing with tax brackets, and that's why our clients, as they enter retirement, are talking with us. How do we restructure our plan? How do we pay our tax today? And how do we make sure moving forward, as we walk away from our income, that we are no longer paying taxes on the dollars that we're withdrawing and pulling from? So I urge everyone, if we haven't talked, you haven't reached out, we haven't had a conversation, you're going to enter retirement in the next 5 to 10 years, give me a call at my personal cell, 602
He broke up a little bit. We'll get him back on. We'll get Joey's number on the other side of the break. We'll be right back. We're back here. Joe and Jason, Patriot Radio News Hour on this Monday. We have Joey with us. And, of course, God's got a sense of humor. Joey was giving out his number, and he broke up there, 602-909-9048. And Joey, you were talking about, hey, keeping as many dollars as you can, tax-free dollars, not giving it to Uncle Sam. Everybody knows the IRS enforcement is way up. Rules continue to change. They continue to ramp up the hiring, and they're going after people that have money. That hey, I've got $500,000, $1 million, $5 million in retirement accounts. The IRS is going to come looking for you. You better have the right people watching out for you.
Yeah, 100%. The IRS is really cracking down on the middle class of America. Making sure every tax is paid. And a lot of people are getting hit with these penalties without knowing what's going on or knowing that they actually did something that they're not allowed to do. Just last week, talked to a couple of couples in their mid-30s and 40s. They're funding Roth IRAs, which is fantastic. However, their income has grown to a level where they are no longer allowed to do so directly. And they're going to have to pay a penalty, but luckily we had caught that, so they're able to pull those dollars out and not pay a 6% penalty. But those are small things like that a lot of everyday Americans don't know about. They don't know the rules because they're constantly changing them. We need to make sure the way we are doing things, the way we fund into our investments, that we're doing it correctly, and we're doing it the right way, and we're also doing it so that the IRS can't come back to us asking for more money. It's very, very important, and these tax laws are always changing. The tax laws are going to be sunsetting 2024, 2025, and what a lot of people don't know, because inflation is so high and expenses are so high, we're actually in historically low income tax brackets. That is very, very important to take note of these next couple of years as they look to change those laws. I'm not a professional there, I'm not a politician, but I'm 99% positive that they are going to raise the tax rate. We need to make sure, before these laws change, we're finding creative ways to pay the tax now so that later on, when taxes are even higher, that we're not paying at those new tax rates. So it's very, very important these next couple of years that we're getting things done, especially before the new year starts, and we're starting to look at tax deductions or things like that before we go and talk to our CPA. So again, hopefully I don't. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, didn't mean to cut you off there, Joey, but I was just going to say, we already know, right? They're having trouble at the Treasury auctions. They're having trouble with the weight of the debt. The reverse repo facility is going to be out of money in 2024, which is going to put more pressure on, which just screams that they're going to need more revenue because it doesn't appear that spending less money is on anybody's table, whether it's the Republicans or the Democrats. So more than likely, we're going to see big changes in tax rates. Are you seeing a lot of people anticipating that and doing things like, you know what, I'm going to pay taxes now on certain incomes, and then I don't have to worry 2 years, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years from now about tax rates going up? Is that something you're seeing a lot more of?
Yeah, 100%. We're seeing a lot more of that. And even before tax rates were a thing, now it's just more relevant. But if you think about it, would you rather have your money growing tax-free for the next 10 years, or do you want it to be growing taxable the next 10 years? If we're doing things tax-free, that's every year we're not paying taxes on the growth of your investment. It makes sense logically. Now, with the tax rates going up and potentially raising, it makes even more sense to do it. But I'm talking saving 3%. The 3% for some people is $30,000 in a single year. It's important. And $3,000, $2,000, that's a lot of money. It's very important that we're doing things the correct way. And a lot of people, they're too lazy to change. And in effect, that costs them $10,000 every year. That $10,000 could have grown to $100,000 over 10 years. We're talking about a lot of money here. And it's important we're getting a game plan in place before the end of the year so that you can feel happy going into the holidays knowing, hey, we're set up and we're starting to make changes with our plan. Or we can enter into 2024 with a lot of unknowns and kind of just throw a dart at the board and hope it lands on something. So if we haven't talked yet, we haven't had a conversation, you have a lot of money, you're looking to invest, you're looking into retirement, maybe you're looking to support the grandkids, reach out to me at my personal cell, 602-909-9048. Again, that is 602-909-9048.
Joey, I know you're busy. Thank you for being with us. We'll have Joey again one more Monday. Then that's it. The following 2 Mondays are going to be holidays. Always great talking with you, Joey. Again, save that money. And it's something where when you make these changes, he brings up such a great point. You've made the change. Now that change has been made, not only for this year, next year, the year after, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and it ends up being a huge amount of money over time. Give them a call, 602-909-9048. And Jason, it's going to be a busy week this week, right? We've got the Fed, their 2-day meeting starts tomorrow. We'll get the rate hike, non-rate hike information. Everyone, well, is he going to talk tough? Is he going to talk sweet? We're going to get CPI tomorrow. I think that will be another one of those numbers that they'll look at, right? Is they'll want to see that number continuing to fall, however they're calculating it. And of course, the jobs number on Friday, they were kind of, oh my gosh, it's 190,000 jobs, and people kind of freaked out. Wages went up. Let me just put to rest why I think that number was kind of a fluke. First of all, 25% of the jobs, about 47,000 jobs, were the returning strikers. The jump in wages, Jason, right? Look at what they got. Right, they all got a huge. Of course, there was a jump, and then you got to remember now the government every single month revises these jobs number. It would be one thing if it was, hey, okay, well, 3 times it goes down and then 1 time it goes up. No, they're always revising them lower. Every month gets revised lower, like 30, 40, sometimes 50, 60,000 jobs. If you take away the strikers. Let's just say they revise it. I'm going to be conservative, only 20,000. that only left you with about 120,000 jobs, and all of those jobs were healthcare and government workers. Jason, I didn't see a great jobs report, but then again, if you only look at the headlines, I guess it was.
More government workers, so I guess more IRS agents in their hiring frenzy that they've started for the next few years. So that makes sense, I guess, right, Joe? As soon as the IRS is finally done hiring, then I guess the jobs number will really fall off.
Yeah, I that's what. I mean, when you really look at it, that's probably, we don't know exactly. They don't break it down, but probably is, right? Probably the majority of that was IRS agents getting ready to come after everybody. But it really is. It's kind of interesting. I think Jay Powell's going to do what he's always done, which is no plan. We're going to watch the data. We're going to keep watching the data. Rates are going to stay higher for longer, and I think that's what we're going to get. Is he going to take rate hikes off the table? No, because why would he? Right? Because he can just say, well, we'll watch the data, right? Hey, if the data, somehow goes screaming back up, we'll do something. Of course, they've rigged the data. That's probably the biggest thing. They've rigged the data, so they already know. Something really would have to go wrong for inflation to start reading, unless, right there, I'm going to tell you when inflation is going to come back. When they start cutting rates is when inflation will come back, right, Jason?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's going to be the inflation is the determining factor as far as staying the same, lowering the rates or raising the rates in any time frame. And these inflation numbers, however they compute them, they may go down in the next few months. We'll see, but it's going to be short-lived. As you said at the beginning of the show, I saw a Mexican restaurant was charging $28 for fajitas. Fajitas, so the inflation is here, and last year they had falling rates at this time last year. So the inflation is going away. So I don't know if that'll drag these current numbers down from last year's numbers, or if these numbers stay sideways, which means okay, we'll leave the rates the same because it's sideways. But if the CPI comes in tomorrow, it's like about the same, 4, 3.8, 3.4, 3.6, It goes sideways when really last year the rates were dropping. The inflation year over year should be going down if they've solved it. So going sideways, or if it goes up tomorrow, they got a problem that's going to hit them a lot sooner. So they better get a low number if they really think of dropping the rates early next year, Joe.
Yeah, we're going to have to see exactly how this plays out. But again, here there's a lot of things that tell us things aren't quite as they seem. 401ks, we talked about the borrowing that's going on, a big jump in the people that need to borrow money from their 401k plans. And according to Fidelity, we're almost to 20% of all of the 401ks that Fidelity services, which according to Fidelity is 23 million accounts. Almost 20% of those already have outstanding loans on their in their 401ks. I mean, and this is supposed to be the great economy, right? Look at wages. Look at the job wages going up, and the realities are, I don't care what they say the inflation number is. This tells you that the number they're telling us is nowhere close to reality, when almost 20% of all 401k borrowers have an outstanding loan they need to borrow from their 401k just to pay the bills, Jason. It really is a number that seemingly, this used to be a rare thing. We really didn't hear about that very often until the financial crisis. And now, you know what, let's face it, it seems like everybody, well, if I have to, I'll just, my credit cards are maxed out. Let me borrow against my 401k so I can pay off my credit cards, and then I can max them out again, right? I mean, that seems to be the economy we're in right now.
Yeah, I made the analogy of the peanut butter jar, Joe, and when the crash part of the cycle comes in, and all the money that actually is fueling the growth kind of comes out. That came out, and that stuff that sticks to the side, that's everybody else. That's all the little bits and pieces of money that you've scraped together. Well, your story is specifically that spatula that comes in and cleans it out. If these people are going into what they call their savings, you know, what little bit they have to put aside for retirement, if they're going into that, that's precisely the big money wiping them out. This is why you save money. This is why gold and silver is a better place to place your money for savings, because some people have to come in and sell their gold and silver, Joe, but it's a little easier process. No penalties. Taxes are different. Everything's better when you're physically holding gold. You can bring it into us, sell it. You can come in, you can buy it. And it's a better way. For me, it's just a better way of saving, Joe. It's just a better way of saving overall. And it sucks to hear these people getting wiped out. I guess you just got to learn. You got to take some time and effort to learn, your financial situation, Joe.
That's the biggest thing. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back right after the break. 800-951-0592, Joe and Jason, Patriot Radio News Hour. And who do you believe? Right? Do we believe Wall Street? Right? Wall Street is convinced rates are coming down. Right? The Fed is going to be forced into lowering rates. Over the weekend, saw a lot of stories about, okay, the Fed's going to have to end quantitative tightening. Of course, we did that story with Bank of America, because they seem to have the best guy, the same guy that warned in 2019, warning again. And the question is, are they going to allow the reverse repo facility to go all the way to zero before they stop, or are they going to do it a little sooner than that? I don't know. You know what? I don't know. Right? When I'm looking at what I see out there, I mean, yes, gas is less. I don't see anything, and I shouldn't say anything, but almost across the board, everything's a fortune. Have you seen a box of cereal? I can't get over this box of cereal. First of all, the box is like, I don't even know how to. It feels like it's half the size of when I was a kid. Maybe even less. I mean, cereal used to be like the cheapest thing at the store. The cheapest way to feed your family. These cereal boxes that they have nothing in them. $6, $7, $8 for one box, and that's not the big box. Gallon of milk, $4, $5, $6, $7, $8, depending on the type of milk you drink. I mean, I don't know where they keep saying everything's going to be wonderful and inflation's coming down. I guess we'll see, Jason, but I don't know where Wall Street is at as far as rates coming down. I think the Fed knows that inflation is a lot worse than what they're saying. But then look at today, the Bank of Japan today. So Friday, we have emergency rate hikes. We may have to raise rates in December. Today, we're not raising them. Nope, we can't do it. Right? Everybody seems to be in this box. Right? They're kind of damned if they do, damned if they don't. And right now, I think we're just waiting to see which dam we're going to be left with. Are we going to be left with the dam of higher inflation? Which, let's face it, that's what Wall Street wants. Wall Street wants, listen, let's just give up. Forget about 2%. Let's go to 3% or 4% and live with it that way. Or are we going to actually try to hold ground here? And then, of course, the equity markets would suffer because the Fed isn't going to lower rates. And I think tomorrow or Wednesday, we're not going to get the answer. We're going to get the same thing that we've gotten out of this Fed for almost a decade now. We're going to follow the data. We're going to follow the data. No planning whatsoever. And I guess that makes sense. The longer they can go without having to do anything, I guess probably the best policy.
Yeah, I mean, it's always nice, I guess, if you have a whole lot of assets and inflation comes in and all your assets are worth a whole lot more money. But it overall, as a society, inflation will destroy your society. I mean, even people that can benefit off of inflation, Joe, they really should be careful what you wish for, right? Because if you own businesses or you have certain asset classes that are good under normal inflation circumstances, if that tumbles and falls at some point, you're positioned in whatever stock or whatever thing that you're in. The housing market. Inflation could kill the housing market. It could completely destroy it and smash it. If no one can buy houses, it doesn't matter if it's sitting there for $2 million, right, Joe? It's going to go unsold. So, yeah, you're right. I think Wall Street does cheer for a little inflation in the current situation, but it's a destructive thing to be wishing for. And it all comes down to one thing, Joe. You should not have private interests controlling the money supply of a government in a country. It just shouldn't happen. Shouldn't happen. We shouldn't be worried about what the Fed's going to do every month, every week, every day, right? It should be what's going on locally and how are you going to improve your situation, your little area, right? But no, we always have to look at the national news and the international news to see what these big money monsters of the world are going to stomp around and crush the little people. So, it's frustrating, Joe, because we shouldn't be here. We shouldn't be here. America had 100 years of prosperity where there was no inflation, Joe. That's where we should be.
Yeah, and it's interesting. To your point, where we've got to sit here and I guess wait and wonder what are they going to do? They tell us, well, we're going to protect you against inflation, and then of course when inflation comes, well, we're going to protect you, just not yet. Right, we're going to protect you a little later. You brought up housing. Listen, allamericangold.com. They're talking about you got to have $3.4 million now. Remember, oh man, if I could just have $1 million, right? Well, yeah, $1 million. Yeah, welcome to middle class, right? $1 million. Right now it's $3.4 million. Then it's going to be $5 million, $10 million. We talked about these contracts in sports, right? It just gets more ridiculous and more ridiculous, but the money doesn't buy anything. That's kind of the problem.
That's the inflation. I mean, the cereal boxes, Joe. I mean, my family, we try to eat a little healthier. We're always trying to find the better, the better box of cereal, so to speak. Which ones are going to be the best to be putting in my body. So I've always paid a little extra, right? And now I'm seeing prices of the lowest quality foods doubling what I used to pay for the highest quality foods. That little $6 box of cereal, that used to be like a $5 box of high quality cereal that was small. Right now, it's low quality, less. The shrinkflation, but the shrinkflation that's going on right now is incredible. Cereal being the number one thing, right? Where the old 28-ounce box of cereal, well, the box is still the 28-ounce box with 12 ounces of cereal in it at the same price, right? Fajitas for $28. I couldn't believe it when I saw that on the menu. For a couple of tortillas, some veggies, and a couple strips of steak or something. And I don't eat this. I don't eat steak fajitas. I do the veggie fajitas. I didn't order them. It was like $28. I mean, holy cow, Joe. I mean, it's and this is the thing is it's just really gotten started. I don't think that anything they've done to stop. They're waiting for all this money to filter out of the system. I'll say this: it's not like they're not trying to kick the can down the road again. They are trying. A lot of the money has sifted through the system successfully. But, Joe, they printed so much in 2020, and it just bounces around and bounces around. And I think we got a couple of years of really bad inflation, if it stops at all, Joe.
Thanks, Radio News Hour. We'll be back right after the break. (800-951-0592). Joe and Jason, Patriot Radio News Hour. Gold's down 16 here, 1982. It's sitting right near support around that 1975 to 1980. It's kind of the support level here for on gold. Silver's off about 20 cents, $22.80, but it just gives huge opportunities. We should all be thankful. I know, listen, I get it. I want record high gold prices too, right? Because that would be like, see, told you, we were right. We're going to be right. We know that. Right? And again, think about the sell-off on a 190,000 job report, which 25% were returning strikers, and then really the rest of the workers were government and healthcare. That was it. Started the show talking about the retail, even Lululemon. It's just not there. Holiday hiring, the lowest in a decade. Borrowing against the 401k. Walking around with 20 people, like 20% of the people got a loan out on their 401ks. This is not economic prosperity. It's not. And it's not going to last. And we've been talking about what's coming out of the reverse repos, people, money flowing out of the banks. Think about last week, we had an $8 billion increase in emergency lending for banks, right? Because without it, they would be insolvent. None of the factors, we're just waiting. Be thankful that you can accumulate even more for less. And that's kind of what we're going to be doing today. $20 gold pieces. 1 through 19. $2,225. So that's $50 off. You heard me right. 50 off. If you buy 20 or more, $2,200. If one of you wants to buy 50, I can do 50 for one guy, but 20 or more, $2,200. You're going to save $75. You're talking about saving almost $200 from where we were like 10 days ago, Jason.
That's right. That's exactly right. So, I mean, we've been hitting the drum pretty hard all during 2023 that this has been a great time frame to buy gold. It's gone up to 2,000. It's gone a little below. It's gone up. It hit record highs. It's come down, but at some point, and it's going to be before you know it. The daily grind. If you're an adult that works, you know that a month can go by, 3 months can go by, 6 months can go by like nothing, and you'll be looking at the gold price, and it's going to be $3,000. And this is why it's a great time to buy, Joe. And we always kind of cater to, hey, I know the average guy, you can't just buy a gold piece for $2,200. We know how budgets are tight. But the other side of this is there are people that have large amounts of money sitting there trying to figure it out. I'm never going to shame the guys that have the money and are really trying to learn about gold and understand how it works. When you call into Patriot Trading Group in Colorado, if you get a hold of me, or in Arizona, if you get a hold of Joe will talk you through the process. The ladies in the front, they'll answer the phone. They'll give you as much information as they know. If you need more, Joe will talk to you and give you a little more. I will talk to you and give you a little more understanding, because a lot of people, if they think of buying gold, it's like going to buy a car or buying something at Walmart, right? Like buying a sofa. It's not the same thing. When you buy a sofa or a car, those things will depreciate. That's what happens when you buy goods and services. They depreciate. They're what you need for that moment only. Gold is not for that moment only. Gold is thousands of years. The gold that the Egyptians were using, the gold that the British Empire was using, what the Greeks were using as gold, that gold is still being used today. It gets melted down and turned into something else. Jewelry gets melted down and gets turned into gold coins. You're getting something that's preserving the value. You're trading fiat currency for a gold money. And if you're one of those guys that you're retiring, big money's coming, right, Joe? That's what these big specials that Joe says, hey, you can buy 50 of these or 20 of these. Yeah, the average guy on the average situation isn't buying that. But look, there's a lot of Americans that have been working 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, and they're cashing out. And it may not be the best place to be in a 401k and having retirement money. You might, what are you going to do with this, right, Joe? What are you going to do with this big windfall that you've earned and you've been plucking away and saving away year after year? How are you going to keep it safe? And lots of places to go with investments, but if you're going to save it, this is right, Joe. This is the best place to put it and preserve it and keep it safe. It's wealth insurance. How many times over the years have you said wealth insurance, Joe?
Right, and it's a great way to hand down wealth too. Really good way, especially if you're really smart about it. 800-951-0592, $20 gold pieces, 1 through 19, $2,225, 20 or more at $2,200. If one of you out there wants to do 50, I can get that done for you at 800-951-0592. But again, we know, right? We're going to be data dependent. They're going to look at, we're going to get one more shot of inflation tomorrow with the CPI. And again, I don't need a CPI number to tell me how expensive things have gotten. You know, it's one of these things where my wife and I, you know, we're empty nesters. Our oldest son, Joey, who you just heard, he lives in Chicago. Our youngest son's a junior in college. And just for the two of us to eat, you know, just takeout, right? Forget about, hey, we're not getting drinks, we're not getting the Coke, we're not getting the alcohol. It's crazy. What a takeout order. You're talking $40 and $50 for two people on takeout. It's insane. Picture Radio News Hour. We'll be back after the break. 800-951-0592, $20 gold. Really heating up here. Premiums coming in, which is what we like to see. $20 gold pieces, 1 through 9, $22.25. Save $50 an ounce there if you buy 20 or more. Save $75 at $2,200 at 800-951-0592. And just to leave you with this note, the IRS, man, they're really proud of themselves. A 53% increase in prosecutions out of the IRS. And Jason, here's the thing that we know, more hiring coming. They're going to have to, in the next, I don't know, let's call it 90 to 120 days. I want to know where the money's going to come from for all these auctions. We have huge debt auctions this week, massive. We know that a lot of it's going to come out of the reverse repo for the next little bit. Like I said, for the next 90, 120 days. If we're lucky. And that's if we let it go to zero, which I don't know if they will or not. Where is the money going to come from? Tax revenues are falling. Look at, I don't know if you guys are paying attention. You see California? $86 billion shortfall in California. That's this year. You know, where is all of the money going to come from? And the funny thing is all of these states that we're going to see as well, that, you know, and I guess I'm just looking down the road here. California doesn't have that sitting in their bank account. They don't. They're going to have to cut. I mean, California, they already, I don't even know. I mean, can they tax you even more? Probably. I mean, think of what they've done. You know, California, you live in California, you're a high-income earner in California between state and federal. You're losing over half of your money to taxes. And, Jason, it's not enough. Right? It's not even close to enough. And so when I sit here and I think about all this IRS ramping up enforcement, that just tells you they knew well in advance, right? They knew. But, man, we're going to have a problem, right? And we're going to have a big problem. We're going to need every dollar we can possibly get our hands on. That's why I love it when people save in gold, because you take it out of the system and you take it away from them.
You know, I'm thinking that they're hiring all these IRS agents, Joe. You know, it's just, I don't know, what would the starting wage be for these jobs? I don't know, $60,000 a year, $75,000 a year. That means to justify the hire, they at least have to extract, what, $100,000 in taxes? And you multiply 100,000 more in taxes by 87,000 guys over a couple of years ago up to, I guess the hiring should be done in a couple of years, right? That's what I think they think they're going to get. Is that feasible, Joe? Or does that have to be a digital currency so they can pull that stunt off? It just seems very scary because there's got to be, even for the government and their wasteful ways of spending, these people have to come through with some results, right?
Yeah, I think they already know. They're going to come through one way or the other. Look at what I just said, 53% increase. And you know what's so funny is they told us we started with customer service first. Right? We're just getting people to answer the phone. The data doesn't say that. The data seems like you started going after people almost immediately. 800-951-0592. Jason and I, we're coming right back right after the break with the Half Empty Cup.